I wanted to talk a little bit about the age around 5 years old, because, sometimes it's, and with kids, it's ever changing story. So you found the way when the child was 3, let's say. And then at 5, you suddenly realize that they start to have a lot of their own preferences. And especially, if you did a good job before, they start to express their feelings in a more clear way. Like they could say, hey, I'm really angry. I just want to be by myself, or just start doing some things that are not like little kids anymore. You just feel that it's already a human being who has a very specific preferences, and you start to feel it and see it, and you find yourself in the situation that you have to find other strategies, let's say, to keep this connection and keep the boundaries at the same time. So could you explain a little bit more, like what is the difference in terms of the development of self-regulation for this age group, and maybe some practices or some practical things that you would encourage parents to focus on for that period?
Yeah. Well, a teacher who's teaching 5-year-olds will be able to tell straight away the parenting strategies that child's been exposed to.
Okay. Tell us more.
Yeah, because if the teacher says, okay, everybody, sit down, the ones that have, out of often fear of being rejected, they've learnt to just do what the adult says. They'll sit down. And the ones that don't sit down because they're wriggly, maybe they're not having enough running around time at home. And those that don't want to sit down and go, no, they don't want to be bossed around, because maybe at home they've been bossed around enough and there's been a bit of tussle building up. So at 5, you're right. What happens is you start to see the results of your parenting strategies. But if you've got 3 children, you have to parent each differently because they've got different temperaments. One's a choleric, fiery child. You don't want to pour water on them, because the world needs these fiery people to start, making changes in the world. We're going to need a lot of choleric children that say, I won't put up with this. Off we go. We'll make some changes, like to the school system. That's just been around too long. The use-by date finished a long time ago. So each child needs a different parenting strategy. And again, if we think, that's the 5-year-old, we're kind of comparing them all too much. I mean, developmentally, they can use their cognition more. You can speak to them and say, do you remember what happened last night at bath time? And we need to use our problem-solving skills now to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah? So let's talk about that. You can do that with a 5-year-old. What you do is you engage with them at the level they're at. They've got more cognition, more creative ideas about how to deal with that problem. In terms of the emotional thing, the last thing you want to do is shame children too much. In fact, a teeny tiny bit of shame can be good. The teeniest bit, like a homeopathic dose of shame, can be good, because the child picks up your shaming without words. You'll just go, you're not happy with that. That's just enough shaming. So, you've got to have your boundaries, but you can negotiate the boundaries. You can say, you're 5 now. And, now you're 5, I can, do this when we go out with you. We couldn't do that when you were 4 because it was always too hard. You'd run around at the cafe. And again, remember I talked about the importance of one-on-one time? So you build on the child's strengths. If you've got a child with, autism or ADHD or, that kind of thing, the last thing you want to do is reward them with going to a cafe, because they're just going to run around and then you'll get frustrated. So you reward them with what suits what they want. They might want to go to the park just with mummy or just with daddy. So you meet the child's identity and biological and temperamental thing. It's not a matter of, now they're 5, we can talk to them. It's quite complex, but you do start to see the results of your parenting practices.
Yeah.
And that can be frightening.
It just, I feel it's just a new set of challenges. Like, you have a 2 months old, there are one list of challenges. At 6 months, there is something different. And it's just, the big lesson that is, it's ever changing, and it's not good or bad. It's just different. And it's good because, probably we build, I tell myself that maybe it's good. You build in the new neurons in your brain. So just, keep going. That's fine.
Well, the children bring us a gift. And the thing to make sure you're having a happy parenting life is you're looking for the gift.
Yeah, not
it's
the
like, yeah, when springtime comes, do you remember when you were little, you'd go out and look for the daffodils or the flowers, oh, look, or in the winter, first snowflakes, falling, or whatever it is. As children, we're always looking for the exciting new things, and we need to be doing that in our own parenting, staying playful, looking all the time for the strengths of the child, building on those strengths, and leaning into our own strengths. If we do find ourselves not able to monitor and manage our own emotional response, maybe we need to get some counselling, or something like that. But the best thing to do is to apologise for the child when your standard drops below what you want. Is to say, I'm really sorry. As I said, I've got a 5-year-old grandson, and we're driving back to his house yesterday afternoon. He spends Saturday night with me, and he said to me in the car, you and me, Grandma, we get along, don't we? I said, yeah. You know why? I said, because I love the things you do. You make things playful, and you're a lot of fun. And he said, and I say sorry, don't I? And I say, and I say sorry, don't I? We had this lovely moment. And when he's with me, he hasn't got his little 3-year-old sister, right? So in that moment when something goes wrong, he can see that he owns that at 5, or nearly 6. He can see he owns what he did. And, he can just say to me, sorry, Grandma. And I said, that's all right, darling. Because again, stay connected. Keep the love, because if you're not loving, you're judging. And if you're judging, you're not loving. Not to say you don't love your child, but you can't be judging and loving in the same moment.